Let's continue our focus on the tourism sector and how it's been doing over the last year. A massive blow, of course, due to the various lockdown and travel restrictions. And it's slowly beginning to recover, nowhere near where it was, nowhere near where it should be. Now, of course, the country has been hit by a third wave. Government is urging people to rather travel locally. Well, let's discuss the situation at one of South Africa's most popular and I think most globally recognized names. It's Shamwari Private Game Reserve with Theo Cromhout from Shamwari. It's down in the Eastern Cape. Looks like a beautiful morning where you are. Theo, thanks for your time in speaking to us. A couple of issues I'd like to unpack, but just in a minute or so, just tell me about how Shamwari's been doing over the last year once you went into lockdown last year. Because I remember there was a massive cash injection into the reserve with the idea of expansion and all those good things, and a month or two later you had to close the gates. How's things been the last year?
Yeah, good morning, Gareth, and thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you as the sun rises over there. It's been tough and it's been tragic, to say the least. You're right, as we approach the end of 2019, we had just come to the end of 2 years of a $25 million investment, refurbishing 4 of our lodges, only to find ourselves in a hard lockdown at the end of March 2020. So since then it's been tough. The business has struggled, but we're surviving. We're still here. The business looks very different than it did over a year and a half ago, but we are still here and we're going to survive. We're in it for the long run, but I'd be lying to you if I told you it hadn't been difficult. It's been very tough for all of our people. Undoubtedly, yes.
Let's talk about how the business now looks different. Our focus, Theo, as I'm sure you would have heard by now, is the local tourism side, international tourism, which I know is a key market for you. Visitors from America, from Europe. I mean, you guys have had royalty arriving at Shamwari, well, many, many years ago now. How, in a difficult year like this, we're being told that international tourists, very difficult to come over, let's focus local. And I mean the question with all due respect. Shamwari is one of many high-end lodges, and it's simply out of the price range of the average South African. So how have you handled that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, first of all, we have to acknowledge that the learning has been immense. I mean, we've had to adapt very, very quickly. I think it's important for folks to understand the business model at Shamwari, because we're not a national park. Everything out here we own ourselves. So the roads we look after, the anti-poaching unit we fund ourselves, the fencing, the environment, the conservation, everything we pay for ourselves. So the business model is such that, yes, we have always relied on international business and the benefits of the exchange rate, which is why we've had to pitch our rates at a particular level. However, now, in trying times, we've had to reinvent, because as you and Chief and all of our other industry colleagues have acknowledged, there is no international business. So we're trying to find ways not just to survive, but to keep our doors open, but appeal to the local domestic market. And that has been an experience, and it's been successful. We've enjoyed the overwhelming support of local South Africans from all across the country. And undoubtedly, the most bizarre experience in my life is when I have guests checking in and I meet them, or we're having a glass of wine in the evening or whatever, and they actually thank us for the incredible rates that we put into the market. And I've never had a situation where guests are thanking us for discounted rates. So I remind them very quickly that it's us that are reliant on them, and we're thanking them for their business. So obviously, rate is one of the issues, and that's one of the things that we had to look at closely. But we also looked at the whole experience at Shamwari and looked at the South African market in particular, because it's no use just dropping your rates and not meeting the needs and the expectations of that market. So I think when I say that's been the learning for us, is understanding more around our South African market and what the sweet spot is, and understanding the difference between a cheap product and an expensive product, but offering value for money. And I think that's the balance that we've had to figure out very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's not a case of just make it cheap just to get people in as well. There's also standards which need to be kept up as well. Final question to you, Theo. You heard in my introduction to you, we've been talking about it the whole morning. Now we're getting into this third wave of COVID-19. The numbers going up very quickly as well. In the last minute or so, how have you now prepared as Shamwari to handle a possible restriction on domestic travel. We don't know if that's going to happen. But what have you learned now from the first and second wave to now prepare yourself for the third wave?
Yeah, I think the first thing is I think the industry would be making a grave mistake if we imposed another curfew or went on hard restrictions like an alcohol ban, because that's what crippled restaurants, hotels, lodges. That's what really crippled us. So going forward, I think domestic travel, we've adapted, we've become creative, we've adapted our pricing. So to attract the local market going forward, we're focusing on themed weekends. So we're inviting winemakers, famous celebrity chefs, craft distillers. We've got Watershed playing here at a gig in one of our bomas at the end of June. So we're becoming creative. We're trying to attract the local market. But as we enter into a third wave, I guess my big appeal, and I know Chief from TBCSA was on before me, I think we need to learn from the lessons and the mistakes that we've made. We all acknowledge that we need to keep guests safe, we need to keep staff safe. We've got unbelievable protocols as an industry to protect the spread of the COVID-19. So right now we need to run our businesses, we need to survive, and we need to offer local South Africans an extraordinary experience the minute they walk through our doors. I think that's all we need to focus on. I'm being pragmatic. Let's just focus on pleasing our guests and making sure that they come back.